Okay, so here we are at our second orientation video. We're going to look at how Blackboard is set up. This is going to look a little different to you because this is my view and not your view, because there are things hidden from you still while I'm recording this that I want you to be able to see as I'm demonstrating things to you. And so the first thing is when you get to when you log into our course and click on our course in Blackboard, you're always going to land on the announcements page. And this is the email that you guys got from me last Wednesday on the 18th. Every time I send you an email, every time you get an email announcement from me, that will also be kept for the rest of the course on this announcements page. So you can always, if you know you had a message and you can't remember what it was or the details, you can't find it, you can always log in here and see any announcement that I've sent out. So that's good to know. And then you navigate from this left-hand toolbar over here. So you can see the announcements are there. The syllabus we looked at in the last video, your textbook hopefully you've already downloaded to a device or purchased a hard copy if you want. And then we have our course materials page. And that course materials page is really where you are going to operate off of for the rest of the course. Everything you need links from there. Every exam, every paper, every discussion links from that course material page. If you start, for example, going into using the left-hand toolbar to access a discussion or to access a group, you run the risk of going into the wrong one for the week, and that happens regularly when students do that. But if you operate off this course materials page, then you know you'll always be in the right place as long as you're in the right folder. Right, and so right now, you guys have already been to, because you're watching this video, the folder for the orientation to our course, and you can see how that was set up with the dates that it's opened, and right here you can see I have a quick look at what is going to be involved. What you can't see yet, and we'll look at together, is an example of a chapter folder. And our first one is going to be Introduction to Psychology and Psychological Research. And what you'll see once that opens on Monday at midnight is you see what textbook chapter or chapters you should be reading for those weeks. You see that there'll be lecture videos, that you have a reading quiz due on Thursday the 2nd, that you have a discussion prompt and Maria's point initial posts that are due on Sunday the 5th. That you have to reply to classmates on the second one, and then you have an optional extra credit. So all of the dates you need are here, and so I would suggest that you might, if you keep a calendar for yourself, immediately on the 30th put in all those dates for the coming 2 weeks so that you have them all in there. For this first chapter, you'll also get reminders from me, but I won't promise to do that throughout the whole semester. Because we will follow the same rhythm, and so you should quickly get used to it. So we'll always open on a Monday. Your first work is the quiz that'll be due on that first Thursday, and then that following Sunday, so essentially 6 days after we open, you have to do your first posts on both discussion forums. And then the following Thursday, you have replies on Maria's point. The following Sunday, which is our last day, you have replies on the discussion prompt. So work is always due on Thursdays and Sundays. So that's a nice thing in terms of the rhythm to keep in mind. So hopefully you quickly get used to that rhythm. But let's take a look inside this folder. You can see how it's set up, right? So you've got learning outcomes. I told you we would repeat those learning outcomes, and so this is also really a really nice thing to take a look at and think, can I do all of these things, right? They're all about things you should be able to do, and if I'm saying them here, then there's a good chance I'm going to ask you to do those things on the exam, so those are good to look at. You've got lecture videos that I've created. I will say that I'm, at this point at least, reusing videos from, I think it's last semester that I created these. And the content will be exactly the same. Every once in a while you might get a reference to something that has to do with a different semester, but for the most part these will be just fine. So you've got lecture videos on the material that corresponds to these chapters, and you should make your way through those. Those are really important. Those are my explanations. I'm emphasizing the things I think are important, which I then obviously will also emphasize on exams. So those videos are crucial. You need to watch those. I also have provided the PowerPoint slides you can see in the background in the videos. Those are here as just static slides to download if you want to use them to take notes or to study off of. So those are there to download as well. So you're going to read the textbook chapter indicated, you're going to watch the videos, and then we get to the part where you have to do work, right? You have to produce things. So you have your quiz, you'll see the due dates are still here. And so remember that those quizzes you can do as many times as you want until you get a perfect grade up until the due date. So up until Thursday, September 2nd, you can retake that quiz. It's only 10 questions. Even if you're retaking it, it shouldn't take so long to get the perfect grade as long as you're willing to do that. And that tells you know the material. It tells me you know the material, right? So it's a way of making sure you're mastering the material. And then we have our two discussion forums. So in this case, right, this is the discussion prompt where I ask you to talk about something specific. And here I ask you to choose one of these research questions and create a proposal for data collection. That will be something you should be able to do once you've engaged with all of the course material that you've been presented with. And so it has specific instructions. You have to reply to 2 classmates' proposals. And there are rubrics. Make sure you take a look at the rubrics for these. It's not enough to just say nice job, right? That's not going to get you full credit for your replies. The goal is to engage your classmates in some way, and so make sure that you do that. And so you've got that, and then you've got the muddiest point. And the muddiest point is always going to have the same directions, except that I tell you what kinds of things you might want to pay special attention to. So this is always about posting a question about what is least clear or muddiest about the content, and then answering questions that 2 of your classmates pose. And this is about effort you make to apply the course content. You could get things wrong and still get full credit as long as you've made good faith effort to apply course content to answer questions. And so you see here, I say pay specific attention to how well you understand populations and samples, data collection methods, right? I'm telling you, like, these are the things that I'm going to be testing you on, and so make sure you understand them. All right, and then you have an optional extra credit, which you have in many of the chapters. You have the due date, which is usually going to be the last date of the chapter. It tells you how many extra credit points, and it asks you to essentially take another stab at looking at research, and this time thinking of, about different questions. Okay, and then there's always in every chapter this practical questions thread forum, which is really a place where you're going to ask more business kind of questions, so not content questions, but things like, I'm not sure how to use the databases. Where do I find out about that? I've never taken an exam on Blackboard before. Can you give me some idea of how that works? So practical kinds of questions. Okay, let's go back to the main course material page. Right, and so, you see, like, biology chapter opens immediately afterwards. The submission, so we'll talk about the paper assignment in the next video. And I have a wrong date on here that I need to fix, which I'll do momentarily. But the article submission, you have to submit an article before the paper for my approval. But the assignment is there, and everything else, so everything you need, the study guides, the exams, everything will be here, and everything will appear. Some of the things are already present, and so the study guides are there, the paper assignments are there, but the chapters will open at the date they're relevant. The exams will open when they become available to you, so things will open in the order in which you're to work on them. Okay, so again, if you have questions about what I've shown you here, feel free to use that practical questions thread to ask those. Okay? All right, the next video talks about the paper assignment, the first paper assignment, and that'll be our last one.